Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the Unported playlist, where we take a look at some of my favorite arcade games of all time that never got ports. And today we're talking about one of my favorite arcade games of all time, and that is Boogie Wings, also known as the Great Ragtime Show in Japan. It was released in 1992 by Data East. And this game is just absolutely wild and weird and fun and quirky, and all the type of things that you're really looking for in a Japanese arcade game. Yet some reason or other, it doesn't really get talked about in the upper echelons of other shmup games from that era. I don't know if that's down to kind of the setting of it, or the fact that it's a shmup and also kind of like an infinite runner at the same time, because this game seemed to kind of write the script for a lot of those iOS infinite runner games we see and play now if you're into them, and you'll see very shortly why that is. Because we just got hit and we're now running on the ground, and there are hundreds of different vehicles, that might be a little bit of an exaggeration, probably closer to 20, that you can get into and use to attack your enemies with, changing the gameplay up completely. Because we lost our ship and we're now standing on top of this giant airship with just our gun, shooting at our opponents. And you will see that I take a quick continue. The game is definitely hard. You're going to burn through a lot of quarters if you're playing this in an arcade, or if you're emulating it, you're going to burn through a lot of virtual quarters, but it's so endearing and so interesting and so fun that I really don't mind. And one of the main hooks of the game here, pun very much intended, is your air hook. You're able to pick up bombs with it, you're able to pick up enemy ships, and you can drop them on other things and they explode. So there's really three mechanics going on in the game. You have your basic shmup mechanic, you have that skyhook kind of dealing with your explosives, and then you have all these other vehicles that you can enter into. And you'll see that we have 5 stages to pick from to start. That was the intro, and you can pick them in any order that you want to play them in, and there is no right or wrong answer. And now we're in Detroit. And it definitely has a World War I era sort of feel to it, with the biplanes, with all the different, trucks and things you're seeing. But there's definitely sort of like a steampunk aesthetic to it, because there's these giant airships that don't look like anything from actually being 18 in that kind of World War I era. So it's kind of got a visual vibe that can confuse you. And like I said, I just don't know why this game isn't revered more than it is. Now we're in a motorcycle, and you can get in and out of these different vehicles. You see a motorcycle, you see a couple different types of tanks, you see this giant Tin Man looking character here, and each one has their own sort of motion. They have their own attacks, and some are better than others for certain uses. And you definitely have to kind of vary up what you're using to be able to see, because now we have this rocket launching what looks like kind of like a fire truck, like an emergency truck you'd see at the airport. It shoots straight up, and it also has these missiles that go, at a 45-degree angle, and you can raise or lower that kind of looks like a ladder to be able to hit the right areas. And the game definitely varies itself up in speed. You'll see we're inside down here. We got nailed by that plane. So you can either decide to go the lower route and take something that's not a plane in there, or you can stay up top and play it as more of a shmup. So it's really more than one genre of game in and of itself. And I will say that there is so much detail in the backgrounds. Everything is animated really well. There's so much background detail, so many things to look at, that it can sometimes make you want to just die a few times and be able to look at the things that are going on around you, because obviously playing a shmup, the most important thing is to watch your ship and to hit your enemies. So it's slightly unfortunate that you can't spend all the time in the world to look at the details in the background, but it's just kind of how it is. You'll see the game has some nice parallax scrolling in the background as well. You've got 3 different layers going on, giving it a lot of that nice depth, and that fire effect that was just on the left-hand side of the screen also looks great. And like I said, this game deserves a lot more love and attention than it got, because this just doesn't get mentioned when you hear a lot about, early 90s shmups in the arcade. You hear about different games, and some of those we've shown on the channel so far, but this is one, I think, probably the #1 game so far in the Unported playlist that I think you definitely should experience. If you're a fan of shmups, if you're a fan of arcade games, you're definitely going to get a lot out of this. And it's not a short game. It takes a while to beat, because you have the intro, 5 stages that you can pick from any order, and then you have a final stage as well. And we're not going to be showing all of them to you. I will upload a long play of this next Sunday at 5 p.m. I upload them when I finish the full game for my captures, so you guys can see a lot more of what Boogie Wings actually has to offer, because there is just a ton of things going on, and it's definitely a game that's going to hold your interest a lot. But on what you do, the soundtrack is amazing. Watch this next stage from start to finish, and I'll come back in a bit and talk more about Boogie Wings. And I do love the intro to that boss, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's the reality of this game, is nothing really makes sense, and that's why it is so charming, because now we're fighting Frankenstein while that guy in the top hat plays that gigantic church organ in the back with like a ragtime horror theme. And that's probably one of my favorite parts of the game. Not only is it a super awesome shmup that has all these different controllable, tanks or trucks to be in, but it also just has so much charm, so much flair, a great soundtrack, detailed visuals, that it's just something that makes you smile when you play it and you have a lot of fun. And that's something that I definitely look for in pretty much all games. I always want to be having fun and enjoying myself. And now we are in a Christmas themed stage, and you have this entire Christmas soundtrack going on as well. So normally I just give you one break in the video to listen to some of the soundtrack, but I'm going to stop talking for like 30 seconds because it's a great jaunty Christmas tune. But I'll be back very shortly. But I mean, you're going to be watching this sometime in September, but hey, maybe it'll get you in the spirit for Christmas. But listen, and I'll be right back. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed that little bit of the soundtrack. And that's what I love about Boogie Wings so much, is everything is just wildly different. It's like when they were developing the game, they just said, hey, what do you think? What are you interested in? What would you like to do? And someone yelled a Christmas level, and another person yelled Detroit, and they said, hey, screw it, put them all in. And even some things in their own levels don't make any sense, because we're in a Christmas-themed level, and then we come up to a sports field with both football players and baseball players with a hot dog in the background. Now, I'm not a huge, football fan, but if there is one holiday I think of that involves football, that would be Thanksgiving. But, the designers at Data East said, hey, December, football, whatever, run with it. And that's why I love this game so much and think it's so charming, because it really can't help itself. It wants to show you everything. It wants to do really weird things, but it's so well designed. It's so fun to play. It's so visually interesting, and the soundtrack's so great. You'll see there we just shot a snowman. Even the smallest background sprites have some sort of interactivity to them, and it's just a game that has more going on than a lot of others I've played. And as far as, games I've shown in the Unported playlist series, this more than anything, if you've never heard of it, or if you've heard of it and you've never played it, if you play one game up to this point that I've shown you, definitely make it Boogie Wings, because it's just so unique and so different, and a lot of what I love about classic arcade gaming, where they were just doing crazy things, like giving you a robot Santa on wheels that you have to fight. I can't remember another game where Santa Claus is an enemy, but in Boogie Wings, it's totally a normal thing. But I can't recommend you play this game enough. It's really easy to emulate. If you want to buy a PCB, it's not going to be cheap, but it's just going to hook up with JAMA and you'll be fine. But if you could do us a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It takes us a lot of time and energy and effort to make each one of these episodes, and we really appreciate all your guys' support. We will be back next Sunday with another Unported arcade game to show you, and we will be back on Tuesday and Friday as well with episodes in those series. But we have destroyed Santa. His face is on the ground, and he's just yelling Merry Christmas. So, bye-bye.